Good morning and welcome to the project in your community. Another little live podcast for you today. It's Thursday, it's the 18th of March. I hope everyone had a nice Paddy's Day yesterday. It was a little bit crazy everywhere, I think, yesterday. In Spain, it goes on for like 3-4 days, particularly in the area I live in, which is very Irish, as you probably know, Cabaroig. But anyway, we're going to see who we got on today. We're going to have a little chat about the player analysis, squad analysis that we've been looking at over the last, we looked at yesterday, we're going to look at it again today. Yesterday we looked at the keepers and did discuss like the back four a little bit. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the back four today. Also about yesterday's result in which Wrexham were beaten 3-1 by Watford. And also a little talk about like the way we set up and the way we play. And the fact that it ain't going to be changing. So, I don't know what people's like. I'm just going to have a little chat about like the way Tom Wagner explained it 2 years ago and the way the club's set up. I think that's important to look at. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to have a little look and see if we've got anyone on yet. Let's have a little scout around. It takes a little bit of time over the last few days to get any comments on. Let's see if we're going to get anything on early today. I think we will because we've got people on early. So we've got like some viewers on already. So let's just see what happens as we wait. We just activate a few little things. We're going to expand the comments now. Bang. And voila, we haven't got anything yet. But we'll wait a minute or two. Do come and speak. Tell me what you think. Johnny Cole's on. He's saying good morning to me. How you doing, John? I hope you're all right, mate. Hope everything's good. You're the first one on today. I've just literally come on myself. So good morning to you. Be interesting to get your views on the subject matter today. We're going to talk about. I think we're going to have a little talk about the back four and possibly like. The defensive setup at the club at the moment and how we want it to look going forward. Everyone has their view on it, but we do sort of have pretty much. We're going to be set in a certain way that we play due to the requirements of Tom Wagner and the way the club is set up and the way he wants us to play and the way I think that we've recruited as well. Like I said yesterday, I think the recruitment last season was a little bit. I think I don't want to say Chris Davis let down by the recruitment, but I don't think the recruitment really ticked all the boxes last season. In the summer window, I think we did. We got some good players out of the summer window, but. I think we also made quite a few mistakes, and one of the things I think we didn't do in the summer window was get a big enough side. We're physically small, and that was one of our biggest issues in the first half of the season. I think any team that wanted to play the high ball against us was going to beat us 9 times out of 10. Our set pieces were poor, and that's one of the reasons that they were. It has got better since then when we signed a couple of taller players and a couple of players that don't mind putting it about a bit. But, I think we did sell ourselves a little bit short, literally, in terms of who we signed. If you looked at our forwards, Stansfield, Kyogo, Dux, who essentially is a number 10, but was signed in that forward role. Really, no one there that carries any weight or is going to battle against big championship centre halves. And I think with the sign of Priska now, we got someone who can definitely challenge in the air. And he is actually, despite the fact that he looks, I don't know, like he looks slight, but he looks about 14. But he's very, very. He doesn't mind mixing it up, and that's good. So physically speaking, I think we were undersold a little bit. I think we could really, what we should have done was recruited that left-sided centre half. Although we did recruit one, it was very late in the window when we bought Jack Robinson in. I think probably at the start of the season, I think we perhaps didn't set it up the way that I think it would have been better set up at the very beginning when we bought in Asai Samuel and we bought in and we had Cochrane and we bought Cochrane in, and those particularly like Asai Samuel, although he did start really well against Ipswich, he's no Ethan Laird, is he? You know, he's not as athletic. He doesn't get forward like Ethan Laird. So I think, all things considered, it was like a mediocre summer window, and I think we didn't do probably as much as we could have done. The other thing is you can't, like replace 20 players in one window, which is what we've more or less done over two. And I think had we started with the players that we have now, it would have been a completely different looking team. And we would have been in a better position. Although, having said that, we have been really in considering where we are now. Had we recruited a little bit better earlier on, I think we would have been in a much stronger position in terms of points, because I think we have probably dropped points really, when you look back on it now, were possibly avoidable, with slightly different recruitments. But it is what it is, and we have what we have. The setup itself, we're always going to play four at the back, and I honestly think that when people constantly just talk about, we need to play wing backs, or we need to play this formation or that formation, I think you have to accept that that's not going to happen. And it isn't anything to do with Chris Davis. This is to do with Tom Wagner. I'd just ask you to go back and look at the very first open house, and you'll see exactly what Tom Wagner said in that open house, and that was that the most successful teams in world football, club teams and international teams, play with that 4-2-3-1 setup that we play with. Adrian Turner's a good shout, Steve. I think we needed bigger players and also championship experienced players mixed in, possibly similar to Wrexham, who bought those type of players. I'm not 100% sure about. Listen, there's nothing wrong with having players that are experienced in the championship. Obviously, we were playing in the championship, but I think we had a different. Like I said, I think this is probably where recruitment let us down a little bit, but it's something we were learning on the hoof really. Although we had Mike Rigg involved with us, who's very experienced. We was using this new software. We looked in 40 countries, and also we wanted to get the best possible value for money. And I think we did all right. The one or two signings that I think cost us. When you say like Wrexham, I presume you mean by signing recognised championship players, and I don't think it would have hurt us. But I watched Wrexham last night, and I wouldn't want to be watching that every week. Put it that way. But I've said this before. That's down to Phil Parkinson, the way he plays. Obviously, the American owners there haven't got a clue about. You only have to listen to them, and they haven't got a clue really about how teams set up, or even how English football is played, to be honest. They obviously watch it week in, week out, they're supporters, but that's about it. They wouldn't really have the kind of mindset that we have with Tom Wagner. And I think initially, when Tom Wagner decided to play like that, it was probably influenced by Gary Cook. But after Gary Cook had influenced him, Tom Wagner went out and did the research on it. When teams play this sort of style of football, what's the success rate? How good the teams like this are fair in competition. And it came back, obviously the best teams in the world play with that setup. You can't argue with it. John Cole is saying bringing 9, 10 new players in the summer took a long time for the team to come together. Look at November's results. Then we buy half a dozen more in January, and those guys need to integrate, and that takes time. 2 separate teams for either half of the season need a period of time of stability. I think you know that's right. There's no real happy medium between it, because I think we needed an influx of players, because what we had that won the championship, that won League One, wasn't probably good enough. It's a good point that you make, because when you replace that many players, they're not going to bed in straight away. It's difficult, and some people, and you know, we see some rubbish talk. I mean, I just read something this morning actually on I think it was a Birmingham City page, not the official one, the other one, Birmingham City FC. It's a group. It's one of the worst groups. So I sound like Donald Trump, don't I? But it's one of the worst groups out there, and I said, you know, like. Chris Davis has had like Osman, for instance, and Vicente, and the other signings in the summer, in the winter window, for like 6 or 7 weeks, and he's coached the football out of them. I mean, it's just absolute shite, isn't it? You know, I mean, Osman's been in the Brighton setup since he was like 8 or something, you know, whatever, and he's coached to play the way he plays. And the way we play exactly the same. That's why Brighton are happy to let us have their players. So that's just rubbish, you know. I mean, no manager coaches a player not to play. It's just complete trash. I don't know where people get the ideas from sometimes. Ibrahim Osman has been a real success since he's been with us. And for anyone that says he still doesn't take players on and still doesn't go wide, they don't watch the game. And something he has got better at in his game since he's been with us is his defending. And defending for a wide left player in our style of football is absolutely vital, because which happens with us, particularly last week, when Ethan Laird pushes forward down the left, then it's the left winger that works with him, and when he goes forward and goes outside, it's that left winger that drops back. And you know, it's just basic. It's basic. It's the way basically that back four with 3 in possession works. It's how it works. So of course he has to defend, but every footballer has to defend every forward, unless you want to play with one man short in your team. Playing without the ball is really, really important part of the game. Adrian Turner said, I'm still optimistic we couldn't make the playoffs. It's a long shot, but you never know. What's your take on that? I'm just going to say good morning, good afternoon to Tina Baker, who's saying hello to me. How you doing, Tina? Nice to have you back on, my love. Andrew, I think if we got into playoffs now, I think it would be I don't know, it'd be quite astonishing really, because we are at the moment, I think if we could close, it's not impossible, but obviously in our position, we are one of the least fancied at the moment because of the position we're in. But if we can put a run together, then nothing's impossible. I mean, we've still got 8 games, I think. So that's 24 points. We get 24 points now. We're in the playoffs definitely. So it's not impossible. If I was a gambling man, I wouldn't be gambling my mortgage on it. But I'm always glass half full. And I haven't given up. Had we not conceded against Sheffield United on Saturday, I'll sound really bad now because it's football. We did concede. We'd have 2 more points, and I'd be a lot happier. We're watching Watford play last night. Like Watford, they're good. They transition faster than we do, and that's really a part of their game. But I watch them, and they're like us in a lot of ways, where their passes, short passes, very rarely go astray. Like close passing in the back four, the way they bring the ball out. Whereas if you watch Wrexham transition, they do transition fast, but they hit the long ball. They don't look to play out of defence. Of course they don't, because they play 5 at the back and they play with wing backs, and they try to get the wingers up. And they got caught out several times like that. I mean, it could have been 3-0 but at half time because they got caught out. And it's the way teams like us play as well. You can get caught out in the same way, because essentially when we have possession, we have 3 at the back. It's only when we lose possession that we go to a 4, and I just don't think some people understand that, and it's worth just probably having a little look at it and working it out. I'm not being condescending to anyone that's on here at the moment. I'm absolutely certain you understand how we play, but some people that don't understand it, then just have a little look at it and watch it, and do a little bit of swat up on it a little bit. Adrian's saying, I guess the Derby game might give us an answer. Win that, it does change things. It does, Adrian, definitely. And the other thing is, of course, it depends on the other games that are being played. Wrexham haven't got the easiest run in, but you got to look at Southampton, Derby around us as well. I mean, Derby should be a good marker for us, because Derby's a team we should beat. I've looked at Derby, I've looked at them the last few days. They're not a bad side, but they set up, it's a John used to set up, and they set up not to lose, which suits us. Derby aren't going to go and defend at home against us, because they need the points as badly as we do to get into the playoffs. But I think that will expose them. We know a fair bit about the way they play, because John Eustace used to manage us, and I think it's a game probably for Prisca. I don't know. I would be playing Prisca now, because I think he's the future of our attack. We've got these 8 games left. I believe it's eight games left, and if Prisca plays and we get into playoffs, whatever, absolutely brilliant. If he plays and we don't, then we're giving him valuable first team time. He's a young lad, he's from another country, and this is one of the issues that we have when we sign foreign players. And I think it was the point made earlier about signing sort of oven-ready championship players, if you want. It's probably something that we did miss out on, because it doesn't take those championship players a couple of months to get up to speed, and the other thing is they're used to playing that many games, and a lot of the players that we've bought aren't used to that. I mean, you can see that with the German players. They hit and miss when they play. They look tired sometimes. They look like a little bit jaded. I think Neumann's looked leggy on certain times. I've said 100 times that Dux goes missing, and no one can argue with that, because he does. Although his contribution, when he contributes, tends to be brilliant. I mean, if only we could get Dux to work the way Stansfield does. If Dux had the engine in him that Stansfield has, we'd have an absolute world beater. But unfortunately he hasn't, and some players are like that. You can name lots and lots of players that have got a lovely touch. They've got a good footballing brain, but they don't work very hard. It's just how it is with some players. So I think definitely we should be playing Prisca up top for the remainder of the season, and I think we need to get that back 4 settled now for this running, and for me it has to be Laird. We see when we know that Wagner isn't going to be fit for the game at Derby, so I think it's still going to be a Watcher at right back, Laird at left back, and unless I'm almost certain it's going to be Clara and Robinson as the 2 centre halves. Now, like we said, we're going to look at the players and see what we need for next season as well while we're at it. Obviously, it depends what division we're in, but I'm just sort of taking it for granted that we probably have a good chance that we're going to be in the Championship. So I think when you look at our defence and the defensive players we have, we're not a million miles away. We're well stocked on right backs. I think probably Watter's time of playing at right back is going to be up. So whether or not we retain Asai Samuel or we move him on and we get another prototype Laird, because I think Ethan Laird is an absolute must for next season for us at right back. We need to try and keep him fit. It's so difficult with players like Laird. Because of the explosive nature of his game, you're always going to be prone to hamstrings and calves, and he has been. If we can keep him fit and keep him playing, is a massive plus for us. And I think we missed him last season. And I do think probably we should have started the season with him instead of having that period of time when he wasn't playing. And Asai Samuel, after a few games, he wasn't playing as well, and then which is fair enough, we stuck with him, but for me, Laird didn't play early enough in the season, and also the big minus last season with the centre halves, because I was a little bit surprised when I first seen Phil Neumann play, because he wasn't the centre half that I thought he was going to be. He's athletic, yeah, he is. But the reason I was surprised, because I was expecting this centre half to be something absolutely, unrivaled, because we bought him to play, and we bought him to play alongside Christopher Clara, who we had to actually move out of position to play him. So I thought this is definitely going to be something important for us. And when Neumann came, I was a little bit disappointed with him. First game against Ipswich, he was all right. He was like a little bit hit and miss for me, and he was he gives possession away too easily for me. Clara can hold the ball better, and he's a better defender. They'll both put the head in. I'm not doubting Neumann's ability to head the ball, but his reading of the game isn't that good. And also the thing with Neumann is a little bit like Dux. I think there's too many games for him in English football. How that may change, I don't know. But to me, it seems like Chris Davis has made his mind up on Neumann that he's going to play second string to Chris Clara, and we've got to have a left-sided centre half. So I think that's something we have to buy in the close season. We have to buy well as well. Lee Harvey's on. How you doing, Lee? Nice to see you, mate. Never knew you was on. Yeah, I put it on this morning. I was going to set one of these, and I put it on last night, I think. I don't know why notifications aren't going out, because we posted, so I just don't get that. Anyway, yeah, we hope everyone's all right and good. I think you're the second person who said that, so we'll get that checked. Make sure that our notifications are going out. I think they are there, because we get a lot of posts and stuff. So yeah, I think a left-sided centre half is going to be a really important purchase for us in the close season. Whilst I like Jack Robinson, and he is a tried and tested Championship centre half, and he is good. He's got a good throw. He's left-sided. He reads the game well. He's a little bit old for what we want, I think. So I think Jack Robinson, we could keep him and play him, like as a second string. He's good around the dressing room, apparently. And then I think Jonathan Panzo probably isn't our long-term solution. He was brought in as a short-term fill-in, I think, for the rest of the season, and he's done all right. He hasn't been outstanding, but he hasn't made any bad mistakes or anything. But I don't think he reads the game that well. And I think it's just so much better seeing Chris Clara on the right-hand side of defence. He looks so much more relaxed, and his tackling so much better. and he covers Ethan Laird, you know. So I think we're going to be looking at a new keeper, if not two new keepers. It depends if we want to keep Brad Mayo as the second string. I don't know what's going to happen with Beadle. I think there's a certain element of our support that isn't going to ever like Beadle, no matter what he does. So I think probably a new championship goalkeeper, you know, a new decent young goalkeeper, and Alsop as the backup to him. So Lee's coming on saying, you heard Prisk being kidnapped last night. He won't be playing Saturday. Well, I know you're joking, of course, but I hope Prisk starts to feature, for, you know, to start in the team. He's a young lad and he needs to get used to English football, and he's certainly brave enough. Harry Parker saying, good afternoon to me, Watford were good. They were, weren't they? I thought they would be. Norwich having enough to beat Saints tonight. You never know. Yeah, you don't know. You're absolutely right, Harry. I mean, you and I have been around long enough I mean, look, when Bruce took us up, you know, I mean, it was an amazing run till the end of the season, and I thought Watford were good, but they weren't. They got caught out quite easily sometimes. The transition was brilliant. I mean, they break so quickly, and they have some really quick players. They could and probably should have been 3 up at half time. That game's dead and buried then, isn't it? But you know, they're sort of like us in a lot of ways, aren't they? You know, they offer so and promise so much, but they don't quite deliver. Keep right on. Hiya, Steve. I still feel a different manager gets a different time out of squad we have. So in the summer, do we ship out 4 or 5 players and we're shipping new, or do we change the boss or bring in a better assistant to help him at the end of the season? What else we say now? We will look back on a massive missed opportunity, as we easily have the best squad in that league. I don't think we've got the best squad in the league by quite a way, to be honest. I think we're in the top 6 squads, definitely. I think Ipswich have a better squad. I think Coventry have a more adaptable, probably better squad. If you look through the division, and it's hard to say who's got a better squad, isn't it? You know, I mean, the way you can see who's got the best squad isn't always the position they're in. It's obviously the way it's utilised as well. I can't see Chris Davies being replaced. I do really think it's a waste of time discussing it, because I don't think it's going to happen. If it did, I'd have no idea who we would replace him with, because it would have to be someone like Chris Davies, you know. And for me, if you're going to get someone like Chris Davies is the best one around that's like him. I don't know if you have ideas about who you think would be a good replacement. Feel free to tell us. I think Ben Petty is a good backup to Chris Davies, to be honest, as an assistant. You could bring in someone with more experience, but Ben's really experienced, as Chris is as well. You know, he's not an experienced manager, but he's experienced within the Championship and the Premier League. And we are looking for a new set piece coach, a specialised one, which we haven't got at the moment. But yeah, it's interesting. A different manager gets different things out of players. You know, of course, every manager's different, and you have a point. Lee Harvey is saying a Wrexham game, watched 10 minutes and turned it over. Yeah, it wasn't the best. You're right, Steve, what you said about them. Well, you know, it's not rocket science with Wrexham. It's the way they play, and it's the way Phil Parkinson's always played. They've got better at playing that way because they've got more quality players playing it over the years. But I personally think that with that particular squad, they could do so much more if they played football rather than hitting it long every opportunity they get. They were better at times than I thought they would be, but they still resort to that long ball, don't they? I mean, honestly, you wouldn't want to see them play Man City, would you? You know, like that. Dave said, I can't see many changes this close season. So, yes, 4 or 5 might be an option, which is the point of this discussion. Who goes, but what positions need to be strengthened? Well, we have just been discussing it, you know. So for me, I think, like in terms of the back four, I mean, when you're looking defensively, you also have to look at the setup a little bit. So we have the option of changing, you know, keeping the way Chris plays, but playing it slightly differently. So we could play. I mean, people were talking yesterday about a 4-4-2. I can never see him playing that. Wouldn't be impossible to play a 4-diamond-2 or like a 4-diamond-1-1. So you know the four. So in the diamond, you would have one deep midfielder sitting in front of the back four with two wider ones, and then at the head of the diamond, you would have a more central player that can move a little, given a little bit of freedom to move left and right, and then a 10 and a striker, or be a little bit more direct and have two strikers. There's quite a lot of ways of playing it. You know, do we always want to play with two sitting midfielders at the base of the defence, or will we be a bit more, a little bit more adventurous and play with one there? Liavi saying it's going to be an interesting summer. It is, and of course, we can't give up yet, can we? Well, we've still got the outside chance of getting into the playoffs. The reason I speak about playing that one in front of the back four now is because we have a player that can do that, and I don't think we had it before. Paik, Paik and Iwata did a good job there, but sometimes, you know, I think, why use two defensive mids if you have one that's good enough, and then push another that allows you the room to send another one forward. So if we had Solis there in front of the back four, who I think has been an absolutely brilliant signing, and then it could release. You wouldn't have that thing then about who's going to play with Solis at the back, in front of the defenders. But then you could have, you know, like, so you would have, for instance, a 4-1-4-1 if you want. So you would then have your one defensive mid, and then you got four in front of him instead of three. So you could play Paik, you know, in a more forward role, and probably you know your two wingers or even one winger, Stansfield, with them, you know. So you can just experiment a little bit more with it. And for me, it would be probably always, I'm going to say it's going to be Prisk up top next season, because I want that to happen. We would have paid an awful lot more money for him had we waited until next season to sign him. So I don't think he was signed with this season in mind, but why not get him playing now? Harry saying, I really feel, having had at least half a season in the Championship and got to understand one another, this squad next season can do great things. Yeah, I think it needs tweaking now, Harry. Like I said, and the whole point of us doing these little chats is to see where we think it can change. Who do you think probably is going to be surplus to requirements next season? I think another interesting point with it is when you got such a big turnover of players, which is what we've had, and we've needed to have it, it does stifle the opportunity for young players to come through. So our youngsters at the moment aren't getting the loans that they might get, because they haven't got any first team experience. So I think that's something else you have to look at. But you know, we can't really prioritise that over us getting into the Premier League. Of course we can't. So I think if I was Chris Davis now, I'd be looking at drawing up a short list of players probably that I'd be looking at moving on. You can't always move a player on if they've got contracts, unless you want to take a big hit money wise. You can't just make a player move, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. It's like, get rid of so and so. You can't just get rid of players. They have contracts. Keep right on. I'll be honest, in my opinion, the playoffs are gone. Yeah, we're not getting relegated, so it's time to mix it. We're not getting relegated, and isn't that a nice feeling? We haven't got to look over our shoulders a little bit. Doyle need a good run now to see if he can be the answer to the ball playing centre mid we are desperate for. The Doyle discussion is a difficult one. There's two things with Doyle. Are Wolves going to want him back? So is Rob Edwards going to want him at Molineux next season, because they're going to be down with us if we don't go up? And number two, do we need to experiment with Doyle, or can we go out and buy an oven-ready number 10? Because I think that's a position that we've struggled in all season. We haven't got that number 10. I keep using this oven-ready. I don't know why, but you know what I mean. We could go out there and buy, a number 10. A good quality number 10 that we know can do the job. I think we were unlucky last season that we didn't get Dowling. I think he could have done that job for us. But someone who has that ability without having to, now use a loan player until the end of the season to see if we can turn him into the player that we need, because he's not a number 10, Doyle. He sits deeper than that. So Doyle's not going to be the number 10. So do we persevere with that, or do we think, something like let him go back to Wolves and then, source it ourselves? Lee saying, I wonder what that Blues advert will be with the coin. I don't know. That it's had me thinking, that coin one. We've got another couple of weeks to wait as well, so I don't want to wait. Why don't someone tell us what it is? Come on. So you see, you're talking. Keep right on. I'm sorry, I don't know what your name is. Perhaps you tell us your name so we know what your name is. When you say, can Doyle be that, ball-winning midfielder that we need, a ball-playing centre mid that we need, could Paik be that if he's taken off defensive mid duties? He's very, very good ball player. He just doesn't play high enough up the pitch. Lee Harvey, Doyle is bang average, to be honest. Bring someone else in the summer. I think it's been difficult for Doyle. He has had good games, and when he's hit a bit of a good form and he's been selected, then he tends to drop off it a little bit. I mean, against Leeds he was really good, wasn't he? But I think he missed his chance then, because he's got all these new signings. I don't know. Harry Parker, I like Doyle. Additions: Scott Twine, Vipotnik, and Chekavadze. Well, Chekavadze and Scott Twine. I mean, Scott Twine would be the one, wouldn't he? I mean, that would be the one. Vipotnik, we're not going to sign Vipotnik now that we've signed Priska. They're the same player, so it's pretty pointless. And for Vipotnik, the money you would spend on him. I mean, to be honest as well, Harry, he missed a really good chance for Swansea last weekend. You get one-on-ones like that, you expect strikers like Vipotnik to dispatch them. I know all strikers miss chances, but and I do like Vipotnik. He's one of my favoured Championship centre forwards. But I don't think that's going to happen now that we bought Priska, and we would have waited otherwise. Definitely, like Chekavadze would be a great signing, but again, what we're looking at, and I think what Blues tried to do, and we could have been too smart for ourselves really, by going out and looking across 40 countries and trying to get an absolute gem for next to nothing, what we've done is we've probably bought good players, but they're not ready for English football. Clara adapted really well. Wagner has been a great signing, and let's hope that continues. Ethan Laird was a really good signing when he came in. He wasn't as good as he is now, and I think Ethan Laird's benefited massively from being coached by Chris Davis, and he'll tell you that himself. I think John Solis has been a major purchase for us to play at the base of the defence. Now, whether we play one there or two there, I don't know. Perhaps you let me know what you think. Do we play with the one in front of the back four, or do we, do we risk it, or do we play with two and play further up the pitch? I don't know. Left-sided centre half is an important one, so I think Panzo moves on at the end of the season. I also think possibly one of the left backs. We've got to wait and see what happens there. We don't need three left backs, not three quality left backs, which is what we've got. Cochrane would be a good backup for Wagner, but personally, if I had to pick between Cochrane and Buchanan, I'd pick Buchanan if he returns to the player that he's been, and there's no reason to think that he won't. So one of those three I think has to go. I would also move Asai Samuel on, and I would also, I don't know about Neumann. For me, the jury's out on it. Does he, if Neumann stays, he stays as a backup for Clara because he's all right. He's not a bad centre half, but he's not probably a first team centre half for us. If Asai Samuel goes, then it frees up the opportunity to bring in a right back that is probably more in the Ethan Laird mould. So in terms of the back four, the goalkeeper probably as well. Dave Pigg is saying big disappointment has been Kanya. I thought he was supposed to be good number 10. Yeah, I read that. He played in Portugal, didn't he? To be honest, Chris Davis has looked at him a few times, and don't forget, I know people say he hasn't given him a chance. He's only played in 4 games or whatever. He sees him every single day in training. You know yourself, if you watch a player every single day in training, you know what sort of player he is. And I just don't think he's got it. When he came on against, who did he come on against? Was it Leeds? He came on late. So he came on recently quite late, and he looked all right, but he was, I don't know. For me, I think you have to just put your hands up on that way and say no. And I think the same probably with Kyogo. I think that that bird has flown now with Kyogo. I don't think that's going to happen. We need to look for somewhere. We need to look in the close season and think. Unfortunately, the Kyogo gamble didn't pay off, and we have to move him on if we can find somewhere for him to go. He'll want to play first team football himself, so I think we'll be able to move him on. But keep right on. It's not just the player we want to change. There could be a few who want away. Yeah, I think anyone that probably isn't getting first team football, dependent on their age and experience. For instance, we just signed Paddy Roberts, haven't we? So he's not going to want to go anywhere. Pat Roberts. All the new signings are going to pretty much want to stay where they are. I don't know who would want to get away. I don't know if you have any ideas. If you think this, someone that comes to mind that you think's going to want to move on. I mean, we got loan players, of course, as well. So we have to look at those. John Solis is on loan, and we hope we can do the deal on him. I'm pretty sure it triggers if it hasn't been triggered already, the purchase clause in his contract. Panzo's only until the end of the season, so we haven't got an issue with that. We've got, I think, Jack Robinson got a 2-year contract. So there's those things to look at, but they ain't really things for us to look at, Those are things for the club to sort out. And obviously, if players do want to move on, then they want to move on. Lee was telling me yesterday, Lee Harvey sounds a good Paddy Roberts is a very, very good player. You know, and I always use that little phrase that we've heard before. You know, he can play football in a phone box. You know, and he can keep the ball at his feet. He's absolutely brilliant at doing that. I think with Vicente, who's the other right-sided winger, there's a very, very good player there, but he's used to playing in the Spanish La Liga, which is very different. They do play our sort of football in La Liga, but when you've got some of the defences that we're coming up against in the Championship, they play in a different way, and it makes it quite difficult for him. Keep right on, he's saying Samuel, Neumann and Ducks. You know, like the Ducks thing is a really hard one. I have to be, and I've always been honest about Marvin Ducks. At times he's unplayable, but for me, he's a luxury player that we don't need to have. If we, you know, if he was consistent, it would be worth keeping, but he just doesn't do it enough for me. I know he scored 10 goals, but you know, if he played like that every week, he would have scored 20. You know, and he just doesn't. And he's not physical enough for the Championship. He isn't. I don't know. What do you think? Dave Pig saying, what do we do with Iwata? Keep him as a utility player if he's happy with that. I think Iwata is definitely a good enough player to keep. He can cover right back. He can play defensive mid. He can play centre half in an emergency. And he's probably at the point stage of his career where he doesn't really want to move on. And I think he's been such a great servant to the club. And, you know, he's a very strong physical little player as well. So he suits the Championship well. You're the lad of YouTube. Okay. I think we're talking to keep right on there. Yeah, it's a possibility. Those three are definitely a possibility. You know, Neumann, Dux, and Samuel. They're probably three that I would move. I personally would say we need to move on, but we're just discussing it, aren't we? And I think one of the left backs definitely need to be moved on. In terms of midfield players, I think, you know, Kanya goes without saying that if he gets the opportunity and we get the opportunity to do something with him, then that has to happen. We have we have an abundance of wingers, you know, so we look at 4 wingers that we have at the moment. Now, Osman, is he going to be here next season? I hope he is, because I think this lad's got so much promise. I don't think we're going to be buying him. I think he's a little bit out of our price range at the moment for a young player. I think Brighton are looking at 15 million for him. But he has got, you know, he's exceptional, isn't he? He's exceptionally quick. He covers a lot. He's not a bad player at all. I like him. He'll go around the back, which is great, you know. And to have him and Dimmy to switch, and to have on the other side we got Paddy Roberts and Vicente, who do complement each other in the way they play. You know, like we look at Vicente, he's always going to go the long way around. He's a winger. He's a very Spanish style winger. He'll go around to the he'll go to the line, and whereas Pat Roberts is more likely to cut in and take the inside route, which works well when we're playing against, you know, a team that's playing with a low block. They both work, you know. A good way over a low block is to put the ball over the top, and for a winger like Osman to go onto it. We've seen him do that so many times. I mean, Sheffield United at times he was unplayable, and then you know you have the other option then of Paddy Roberts coming inside and making the passage, which you know he can do. I mean, is there a number 10 in Paddy Roberts? You know, could his game be changed so that he can play that? He's right. He's got a decent right foot. He's got a great left foot. He reads the game well. He can pass a ball. Could he be converted to that number 10 that we need? I don't know. Harry Potter saying every club needs a utility player like Tomoki. I remember Paul Madeley. I do remember Paul Madeley. Yeah. And of course we had our own TGH last season, didn't we? Taylor Gardner Hickman. Uh, oh, sorry, Lee Harvey, solid 645.45. Yeah, definitely. Uh, I don't know what the price tag is, and no one does. But I think, if we're looking at 5 or 6 million for Solis, I think he's worth every penny. I mean, he's changed the way we play. He puts his foot. We know exactly where that pivot is in in the midfield now. It's John Solis. Before we weren't sure. Iwata and Paik sometimes didn't get in each other's way. They played quite well together, but you were never really sure. And I think with this one now, John Solis could be the first name on the sheet in terms of like that position, sitting in front of the back four. Now, whether we sit one alongside him or whether we let him sit there on his own and then play an extra man in midfield or play the diamond, it could be the base of the diamond. I don't know. These are all a little bit technical, really, and you have to know the players better than we know them to see who can play and who can do what. I think Chris Davis is more happy with the two in front of the back four, and then of course, it becomes a back three when the fullback pushes on. So it's a very versatile way of playing, and there are, when people say sort of play with a 4-4-2 or play. I mean, we do sometimes play with two up front, but it's not the way we set up. I think Chris Davis is pretty relaxed about particularly letting Stansfield sort of have a free rein, and also we see Dimmy Doby coming in and working across the edge of the box at times. So I think that it's not like strictly sort of don't do this or don't do that. So I think when you people saying that Chris Davis coaches football out of players, he doesn't. I think he gives quite a few players a free rein, and I like him for that. So all very interesting, and but like we said, we got to look at. I don't know about in terms of a shopping list. I know Harry mentioned a few that he wants earlier. Like I said, I don't think Vopotnik's going to be an option. I don't necessarily think the other two are either. Scott Twine's not impossible. He's not going to be wanting to sit at Bristol City for the rest of his career. And if he's available, then I would go in with with both feet for Scott Twine. I think he's a great player. I don't know if he's ready for Premier League yet, but he would be a great player to have in your side when you're preparing for that. And to know that you have that number 10 that can make those killer passes, the lad at Coventry is the other one. I'm not very good with remembering names sometimes, but the lad that's been injured quite recently, that he's very, very good. And of course, then you've got your other players like your mercurial players like Gus Hamer and players like him. I mean, he can do anything with the ball, can't he? But he's lazy, so. Dave's saying I like our winger options. We are. I think we're a bit heavy on wingers, to be honest. I would like to think that we would have all four next season. Well, I'm almost certain we're going to have all four of those next season because the only one there's any doubt over with those four is Ibrahim Osman, and if Osman goes back to Brighton, it's not the end of the world. We've got Dimmy, and it gives us another option on the left to, Stansfield often wants to play on that, just inside that left side. So I want to keep Osman, don't get me wrong, I really do, because I think he's such an exciting player, and he's only will have been with us for 3 months, and we have a good relationship with Leicester. Although the players we've signed off them so far haven't been that well received by us. Erin Cashin seems to be absolutely pulling up. He's pulling the world up at Blackburn. He's in the championship team in the week again last week. Left-sided centre half. He's playing out of his skin at Blackburn in a team that's struggling. And I think we've seen glimpses of that towards the end of his time with us, to be honest. I mean, he had a bit of a nightmare against Coventry, and I think his confidence was shot a little bit. He's only a young lad. Don't forget Leicester paid 9 million for him from Derby County, and he has been at Blackburn absolutely brilliant. But so we had him on loan from Leicester and then let him go to Blackburn. And then, of course, there's the whole James Beadle debacle. You know, he's been a really good goalkeeper for us, and our fans have just given him such a hard time. It's a little bit embarrassing. It must be hard for Chris Davis, actually, you know, to go back to Leicester and go, you know, well. And I think James Beadle's his own feelings obviously will come into it, because it's up to him at the end of the day where he goes. No one can make him go anywhere, and I don't know whether he'd want to come back to St Andrews next season. I don't know. He doesn't seem as if he seems like he's quite an adult young man. You know, he's not. He's level-headed, I think, and I just think he's done really, really well. But you know, it might be better probably to let him go back to Brighton, and to bring in our own number one, make him our own keeper, and then I'll have Rocky as the backup to him. To keep right on, guy, controversial, I know, but John McGinn, he would do a job for us, but he would do a job for us. I've no doubt about that. You know, John McGinn is one of those sort of players, isn't he? I don't know how popular he'd be, but we've seen Villa players come to us before many times, and as soon as they touch the ball, you know, everyone hisses at them. But then, if they prove themselves to be worth the move, then we fall in line and we back them. I don't know that John McGinn would be someone we'd be looking at. I honestly don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. I think he's got another season at Villa in him anyway. He's a Villa captain, and they've missed him recently. He has, but I know he's not a regular starter, but a lot of that has been down to injury, so I'm not sure. But it's an interesting one, certainly. I don't know. Did I say Leicester, Dave? Oh, sorry, Brighton. I meant. Did I say Leicester? If Leicester wouldn't let us have him, Brighton. Yeah. Of course, McGinn. Not McGinn. Cash in. Osman and Beadle are all on loan, or have been on loan from Brighton. So we have a really good relationship with Brighton, because we play very similar way to the way they play, and they see us as a good outlet for their young players to develop, and it's nice. But I still don't think probably you get the same kind of, I'm not saying commitment, but I think we need something a little bit more established next season. Although when you sign the amount of players that we sign, then you can, it's almost like amortising them, you know, because we're not signing them, we're loaning them, so it gives us more freedom to bring more players in. Yeah, so yeah. And yeah, I didn't realise I said Leicester. But Leicester, I mean, listen, we've had I mean, people are complaining about our season. If we finish 8th or 9th this season or whatever like that, you know, we're not going down. It's a nice season for us, first season back. It's when you look at teams like Leicester, you know, and watching Watford last night, you know, I mean, the buzz isn't there at Watford. It's at St Andrews. Well, Watford aren't a bad side; they're a good side. You know, you got teams like Derby around there. But like I said at the start of the season, I said that it's not a very good championship, and it really isn't. You know, I mean, I'm not I'm not a big fan of Wrexham. You know, they've done well, but looking at them last night, they look really ordinary. You know, they didn't look anything, and that's what's happening to a lot of championship teams this season. They have a few games, they look like world beaters, and then the next game they just get overawed by someone that you wouldn't expect them to be beaten by. We've seen Oxford do it to a few times. Sides, you know, we've lost at home to Hull City, who to me aren't. They're a footballing team. Hull, they play football, but you know, it's not a game we should have lost. The only one we should have lost at home this season was Middlesbrough, in my opinion. Keep right on. We need a leader in midfield who's been there and done it. It's always good, I think, you know, to have someone in the middle of the park who put the foot on the ball and direct the game. But I have to say that I think Chris Clark has been a good captain for us. And I think, you know, with your captains, you want them to be a centre half, or you want them to be a midfielder, and probably more a midfielder, because they're more involved with the overall game. Yeah, I guess you're talking about John McGinn again there. You know, John McGinn's a good captain at the Villa. He's very well thought of at the Villa. I've got mates who are Villa fans, and you know, he's one of them. You know, I mean, we can all name players that are club men like John McGinn is, and he's a good footballer. Yeah, so we're coming up to the 1 hour mark. So I think we've had another little crack at it today, haven't we? Um, uh, I'm going to be on again tomorrow, and I'm going to wait, or I don't know whether to do the Derby review tomorrow or to take this one step further now, and look at the squad for next season. Probably look at a few kind of players that we want. Look at for definite like who we want to keep. You know, the squad needs changing, but how much do we change it up? And also, I'd be interested to know people's ideas about the actual setup. You know, would you go with that 4-1 diamond 2 or 4-1-4-1? You know, can we keep the same impetus and the same idea, but move us further up the pitch a little bit? Uh, Although it does scare me a bit because I think some of the times one of our biggest issues has been when we haven't had enough cover at the back when we've been caught out. We are a little bit gung ho at times. We can be. We look a bit more cautious now. But one of the big issues that we have is that we're just not good enough defensively, in my opinion. The two centre backs haven't been able to forge the kind of partnership that you need two centre backs to have. And I think also not having a definite first choice goalkeeper has caused us issues. You know, those two centre backs and the goalkeeper have to, if we can make that a three-person unit, and start from there really. But you know, we all have our own opinions. But it's really interesting one today, and thank you for your input. And your opinions are really important. And it's good because we know that the club, you know, people at the club, and anyone that comes into our group will tell you if you don't already know. You know, listen to our podcasts, look at our group, and it's good, you know, to know that there are some sensible people there that you know that understand the game and that can discuss it without being stupid. Harry Parker saying, "Let's try the Barry Fry 1 to 10 form, 1-10 formation." That, you know, you have to watch Barry Fry's management to believe it, don't you? But I've always thought he's the sort of manager that you know that most supporters would be. You know, like they're not playing well at half time, bring six subs on all at once. You know, for me, sometimes we leave the subs a little bit too late because by the time we got the opposition by the throat, and you know, we're looking for another 5 or 10 minutes, aren't we? You know, whereas if you can, but I know like Chris Davis likes to give them the opportunity to put things right, but I think sometimes we have to be a little bit more ruthless sometimes with players. But listen, what do I know? I haven't got to manage them. Chris has, and you know, he has my support, Chris Davis. I mean, everyone knows that. And people have said to us before, you know, it wouldn't matter who the manager was. Well, it's wrong, you know, because you know, I did podcasts explaining why I thought that Wayne Rooney had to go, you know, and we're not always 100% behind the managers. You know, it's a shame what happened to Tony Mowbray. We were behind him. Obviously, we were behind Gary Rowett at the end of the season. We got relegated because we wanted him to keep us up, you know. But you know, I think the managers have moved on too quickly from clubs. They're not given the opportunity to show their management skills and to grow a team. It's no good. Look at, you know, I mean, Watford is a good example. They've changed managers so often, and they just haven't had the opportunity to get a foothold in the division because it's never stable enough. And I don't think Tom Wagner is one to make those sort of rash decisions. I think for me, Chris Davis has another season. Then if it doesn't work out, then's the time to look at it and see what we have to do. It's a 5-year plan. We're in year number 3, so it's all so far going in the right direction. We won League One. We're going to finish in our highest position in the Championship this year, probably for 10 years. Year two. If year three we can get promoted, then we're 2 years ahead of year one relegated, year two Championship, League One champions, year three finishing 9th or 10th in the Championship, for instance. Year four, that would be the year, hopefully, to make the push and get into the Premier League. And then, we've done what the plan was. John Barkley saying, how long do we give CD? Well, I've just said it, that's what I think. Lee Harvey saying, just seen Pepe's taking a back step from City after the Cup game on Sunday. I don't know. I don't know if that's right or not, Lee. I don't know. Dave Peggy saying another season at least. He will get another season, and people can call for his head. He will get another season. Tom Wagner's not stupid, We don't want to start all over again, do we? We're 3 years into a 5-year plan. Chris Davis is in only his second season at the moment. That 5-year plan obviously didn't have Chris Davis at the start, did he? Didn't have Chris Davis there in year one. Chris Davis came in year two. So Lee Harvey, he's okay, 100% mates on Sky. All right, well, Pep's been around for an awful long time. He's achieved an awful lot in the game, hasn't he? So perhaps, taking a back seat, probably move up the, move up the hierarchy at Man City, become some sort of director of football or something, I don't know, but he knows the game inside out. He was a very, very good footballer and he's been a very, very good manager. So Man City is a club that I've always sort of had respect for, but not really since all the money came into them. The club's changed, and I know Man City fans that have said the club's lost its soul. It's a bit like West Ham, and I just hope that never happens to us, because for me, our heart and soul is at St Andrews, and that's just me. Everyone's excited about the chimneys, of course we are. It's a huge move, but it's going to be hard for some of us that have grown up, for 50 years going down St Andrews. It's going to be difficult, but it's exciting, and at least we've got someone that I know they want to make money out of it. That's what. That's what Tom Wagner and United are in it for, to make money, and if we're in it to get into Premier League. So we put those two things together and we achieve, we gain our achievements together, then everyone's happy and happy days, and then we see what happens. But guys, thank you very much for the last 1 hour and 8 minutes. It's been interesting, and like I said, we'll probably do this again tomorrow. I have one more of these, and then we'll do the Derby County preview on Friday, and then we'll think about someone else to talk about next week. Johnny Cole is saying get summer business done as soon as possible. Absolutely, and get the squad ready for day one and the push. Yeah, I think absolutely. We want to get that, and hopefully we're looking at targets already. Lee Harvey saying, but with some of the fans, you never know. Well, fortunately, Lee, the fans don't make the decisions about who's the manager. Tom Wagner does that. So Tom Wagner is no way going to be swayed by a small, and I think it's true if I say a small minority of supporters that want Chris Davis not to be with the club. I could name some people now that do podcasts and stuff and call for his head, and then when we do well, you never hear anything from them, and when it goes bad again, they're back in there. So it's not about that. Tom Wagner's put the money in. He's the man that calls the shots. He's the man that employs Chris Davis, and at the end of the day, it's his decision. If he wants or he thinks Chris Davis has to go, then he has to go. There's nothing anyone can do about it. I know that might, but they can make things very bad for him. They can't get rid of. They can't make. It's a very, very small minority, Lee. It is absolutely it is, and you know, when you run a group like this, you can see what a small minority is, because we, like I keep telling everyone, our membership grows all the time and people know what we're all about. And it's only ever 5 or 6 people that do all that, you know, in our group. And when they're removed, it goes quiet. But the thing is, we're an open group. New people join all the time. They don't always know what we're about. But, you know, we're not about to change the way we are. And I think it's good that we can have conversations like this and all talk honestly about it without being stupid. And that's what it's about. But anyway, wrong arm. There she is. Keep right on. BCFC as well. Gonna have another little. I'm gonna have another a Forever True put around here as well somewhere. I haven't decided yet, but it's gonna be very, very soon. So I'll show you when I've had it done. Listen, everyone, have a fantastic Wednesday. Thursday tomorrow, another week nearly over. And we'll be talking again tomorrow. It's been good doing it every day this week. I just run out of things to say, so next week we might have to be a little bit quiet and step back a little bit. Listen, thank you so much for joining me. Have a fabulous day. Come on, you blue boys.